Do you have any opinion on or any insight to why the Epstein files are still not really released?
Yeah, good question. I did work on occasion child porn cases. When I was up in Gainesville, we would get leads from other office and we would distribute them among the four of us. There's only four guys. So you can't always work gangs, Mark. You got to go out and do this child porn thing. We'd go raid this guy's computer, find all these images, and put him in jail, right? So I do have some experience of how the whole child exploitation, what we call crimes against children, internet crimes against children, physical crimes against children. I have an idea of how it works and so forth. So the question about the Epstein files, it was a talking point that Kash Patel and his deputy director both said that they were going to look into. So I would hold them accountable to, hey, when the time is right, you need to release that, at least what you have access to from the Bureau. If it hasn't been released yet, it's because they're still workable. You dive into a case, you take a second look at it, and you realize there's workable leads here.
So I guess from your experience and perspective, is that your assumption that that's what the case is that there's other loose ends that they're trying to still investigate?
If they've already done the full assessment and he hasn't released it, that's the only conclusion I can come to.
And in your opinion, is it reasonable for it to take potentially years for that to take place? I mean, like, well,
no.
So at what point would you say something else is going on?
Yeah, we're in June, so I mean he's roughly 6 months into his directorship. Soon. Yeah.
Like by the end of the year.
Easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's kind of concerning, because there was a lot of tough talk leading up to the election and up to the confirmation hearings and during and et cetera, and not a lot of follow through. It seems like, and I watched he was on Rogan, not too long ago, and I don't know if you caught that or not, but he was talking about not releasing the footage from the prison cell, and some of it got erased somehow, or file corrupted and it's unrecoverable, which that seems sketchy. But to me, it's like when Rogan asked him about releasing that footage, he was like, well, there's nothing on it. Like you wouldn't gain anything from it, so it's pointless to release it.
Yeah.
It's like, why don't you let us make that fucking call?
Yeah.
To me,
that's a fair answer. Yeah.
Because like the January 6th stuff, they released, dozens of hours of all different types of camera angles.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was useless. But some of it wasn't, But either way, it's like, how do you not understand being in that position, especially coming into it with the verbalization of how you're going to handle this and we're going to get to the bottom of it, and then saying, it's not really worth releasing. It's like, just fucking release it. What do you have to lose by...
I agree with you. Even if it doesn't show anything, not every camera view is going to show him hanging himself.
Right.
It's going to show him walking out of the screen, and then you lose it. Well, then release it. There's no harm, no foul. I don't see a problem in that. And I've worked and been around people who have worked homicides in prison cases, because those are FBI cases. The Bureau works homicides in all prisons, and I'm very familiar with that process. And the only thing that can possibly come to mind is that maybe there's workable leads there somewhere, somehow.
Do you have a personal opinion on whether or not you think he killed himself or not?
I don't. Other than I think it is exactly the way it is. I have no reason to doubt it unless I see evidence otherwise.
So you do subscribe to that he did kill himself?
Yeah. I've known a lot of guys that killed themselves that were jammed up like that. It's very, very common in the child pornography ring. That guys, they're low moral character guys already.
Yeah.
And that's the next way out, and because they see what the future is for them, because they can't go to a prison like I told you earlier about our police officer who went to a low and medium prison. They can't go there. They're either going to have to be in isolation for the rest of their life by themselves. They get 1 hour in the yard and 23 hours in lockup, or they're going to go into general population and they're going to get killed. And they know that, so they know what their future is. So there's no way around that. In Miami, and I can't remember how long ago it was, probably 3 to 5 years ago, Agents go and knock on a bad guy's door. They got a search warrant for his computer. They know he's got thousands of images on it. He takes an AK, sprays the door, kills 2 agents, wounds some others, and then turns it and kills himself. Because he knew the minute they knocked on that door, he's done.
Why not just kill himself and not?
I agree with you.
Yeah.
But, my point is,
Right.
it goes back to Epstein knows he's done. So
Yeah.
in those cases where these child pornographers kill themselves, it's very common.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine you can at least understand the devil's advocate side of saying, or the assumption, and I would call it maybe even a mainstream assumption of the people who are saying this doesn't add up, of saying, okay, but another fairly likely outcome is, or lead up to it, is that there are names on his black book and
Sure.
list and people that he knows and is intimately familiar with their transgressions with this stuff, that because he knows who they are and they're people in certain positions of power, that they're going to do whatever it takes to get him
Right.
murdered so that he doesn't run his
Yeah,
mouth.
no, I get it, and I've heard that as well. I won't try and compare my mafia case to that, but we had a little black book in our mafia case, and it was all those celebrities that I mentioned to you. And we, the FBI, never revealed the names of those celebrities, those athletes, those movie stars, those businessmen. Never, ever released that. The way they got leaked to the public and then got leaked to the media was through the defense attorneys or the witnesses themselves, the girls who slept with them or a customer in the club. So if you try and take that and put that same scenario into the jail situation, the only way it's going to get leaked, these names are going to get leaked, is if people that worked in the jail know what happened to Epstein and they leak it out. But the FBI is really good about holding that close to the vest, based on just, there's been tons of cases with little black books, whatever it might be, and so forth. So if there's names on it, I'm trying to address your question, if there's names on it of celebrities and et cetera, would they know it? Would the person that's got his name on it know it and so forth? Yeah, he would know that, and you might want to do damage control by leaking it yourself and then putting your own narrative to that out front. And some of those names have been leaked. The prince.
Some of the manifests and stuff, yeah.
Yep, for the prince from England and so on and so on. And then that allows them to put their own narrative on it first, hoping that there's not something that proves them to be liars later.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I guess just looking at the contrast between, George Clooney banging a 30-year-old prostitute versus some
Yes.
powerful politician raping an 8-year-old,
Right.
those are pretty disparate public outcry.
You're absolutely right. If we were to play this worst case scenario and say that it leans more towards there's politicians and there's underage girls, your example was 8 years old. I would be willing to bet that if that scenario did exist, these girls are going to be more closer to puberty.
Right.
You don't normally see the 8-year-old as the victim. You see, in this weird world that these people live in, Mike, you see infants and you see you see 15, you see post-pube, you see 14, 15-year-old girls, 16-year-old girls. And that was the massage therapists-ish that have, those names have been released. They fit that profile. They were the just barely not legal yet, right, that he was hiring. That's where the fantasy is more than the 8-year-old.
Okay.
Yeah. So an 8-year-old is super egregious, and in their mind, a 15-year-old, 16-year-old's not as bad.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So where do you throw infants into that? Like what kind of twisted
That's the
fuck?
guys that kill themselves.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah.
Special
Absolutely.
place in hell, no doubt about it.
Yeah. And that is another reason that they're put into solitude or isolation. It's not just to keep them from getting shanked in the yard, is you're trying to limit anything they can have access to kill themselves, because they're automatically deemed high risk to themselves.
maybe it's good that I'm not a warden or making the decisions. For me, it's like, for
Push the
sure
button.
you're going into general population, or I'll put you in on kitchen duty so you're surrounded by knives if that's,
So the way that would work, Mike, is at sentencing, the defense attorney is going to make a motion to the judge. Now, the judge can't ultimately decide what they do inside the prison, but the judge can make a recommendation on the sentencing to say, I recommend to the warden and the pardons commission who handles this guy, I make a recommendation that he be put in isolation. And more times than not, to play nice with each other, the wardens and the jail system will honor what the judge says. So you'll see that request starts before he ever gets put in the jail, and then it's honored. So the warden would have to, like you said, would have to go against the judge's request. And whether he's got the moral backbone to do that, who knows?
I know you're not a judge. You've interacted with them far more than I have. Can you help me understand on what planet a judge who convicts and sentences a man who rapes an infant, that there's any amount of empathy or amount of worry that something bad is going to happen to where he's going to make that recommendation?
Yeah. I agree with you that empathy's not there. I'm sure the judge looks at him as the dirtbag that he is. But the judge has a responsibility to take into consideration the request, because it's now on the record by the defense attorney that you would please make a request to put my guy in isolation for his own protection. Yeah. If he was to deny that, and then that bad guy was to go into general population and get killed, there's a system in place for complaints, if you will, that judges they frowned upon, that I didn't do my job properly and it led to this guy getting killed. Yeah. And they try and stay away from that because they're looking as well for the promotion to the next judgeship as well, appeals court, and work your way on up and so forth.
It seems like a pretty crooked way to try to get promoted. Is there any element to it makes a warden look bad if people are getting killed in his prison?
Absolutely. Yeah, it does make them look bad.
I don't know to who, though, because I'd be a shitty judge and an even shittier warden then. Like, I wouldn't care. It's like, well, who got killed? If it's an accountant that, was blackmailed into laundering money for a cartel, I'm going to try to make sure that guy doesn't get fucking shanked. But a dude that rapes an infant, I don't care. I don't know. Again, it's... Yeah.
It opens up a part of the conscious that we're not used to going to. We don't have to deal with those guys on a regular basis, so it's hard to imagine that.
Yeah.